What's going on, guys? It's Greg. I just wanted to do a quick video about how you can navigate using stars and the moon and the sun. That's definitely a very good way to navigate because many times you're not going to have a compass, or your compass may not work if there's interference with some type of electromagnetic fields, or depending on where you are, your latitude. A compass is not always going to work, and it's also going to be a little bit off. The compasses are usually, they're set for magnetic north, and magnetic north constantly changes. So you want to kind of understand that just because a compass points north, you're not necessarily going, true north. You're going magnetic north, where the magnetic pole is, and the magnetic pole could be off quite a bit depending on where you are in the country, and in the world. It could be pretty far away from true north. So compasses are not always the best, depending on where you are. But it's good to know, how to navigate using stars and the moon and the sun. These are things that you can easily do without expending calories, if you're in a survival situation, or if you're just in a SHTF situation, you don't want to expend a lot of calories. So that's why it's good to use the stars, because it's readily available. All you got to do is look up. It doesn't cost you anything. So I'll quickly show you what I think is the best way is to, you want to look for the Big Dipper. That's the best way. So I did a little sketch here. Basically, you're going to want to look for the North Star, and the North Star is always directly above the North Pole. It obviously in like 100,000 years or something, it's going to shift or whatever they say, but generally in our lifetimes, nothing's going to happen to the North Star. The North Star is always going to be there. And what you're going to want to look for first is you want to look for the Big Dipper, because that's the most recognizable constellation. People know what the Big Dipper is. It's easy to find. So you want to look for the Big Dipper, and then once you find the Big Dipper, all you do is you take these two stars here on the outside of the cup, and you follow them all the way up, and it's going to lead you right to the North Star and the Little Dipper. And this is the Little Dipper right here. All right, and the North Star is at the end of the handle. This is your North Star. And just make a little, I'm going to emphasize it. So that's your North Star. Okay, so as long as you can find your Big Dipper, you can tell where the North Star is, because the North Star is almost perfectly in line. It's not exactly perfectly in line, but it's basically kind of in line with these two stars, the outer two stars of the cup of the Big Dipper. So if you just follow the line, you're eventually going to come to the Little Dipper, and once you find the Little Dipper, the last star in the handle is going to be your North Star. Now, typically the Little Dipper is hard to see. So is the North Star. It's very hard to see depending on how much light pollution there is, and how cloudy it is. But generally the Big Dipper, they have very bright stars, so you'll always see the Big Dipper even in cities. I've been to many different cities, and I've been able, even once you go outside the main downtown area, you can see, once you get out to like a little more suburban area, you get away from the big buildings, you can see the Big Dipper, and then once you find the Big Dipper, you can look for the North Star. The North Star is going to be a little bit dim. It's not going to be easy to see, so you got to look hard. You got to look hard for the big Little Dipper. Now, many times when there's a lot of light pollution near you, if you're like standing under a street light or some other type of lighting, it's going to be hard to see these little stars in the Little Dipper. So what many times you'll see like these two right here, and then you'll just see the North Star, and that's it. So you want to look for like this star and then these two. You're generally going to see these two. If it's darker, then you'll be able to make out the whole thing, or if you're away from light pollution. So that's an easy way. And then what you got to remember too is, depending on the season, the Big Dipper is going to be in a different part of the sky. So you know, the acronym that you want to use is spring up and fall down. So I'll just write that on the board real quick. Spring up, fall down. So basically, spring up, you know, that's just like an acronym, spring up or fall down. So basically, in the springtime, the Big Dipper is going to look like this in the sky. It's going to be at the top. It's going to be the easiest to see in the springtime. And obviously throughout the night, as the night goes on, the Big Dipper rotates, you know, with the Earth. You know, so depending on the time of the year, the Big Dipper is going to rotate. So you got to always keep that in mind. But generally, in the springtime, it's going to look like this. And then in the fall time, it's going to be down on the bottom like this. You know, and then let's see, it's gonna go spring, summer, fall, and winter. It's gonna look like that. And then, you know, that's generally, it's gonna, so the Big Dipper is gonna be at the bottom of the sky, at the closest to the horizon. In the fall time, it's gonna be closest to the horizon, you know, in the fall. And then in the spring, it's gonna be at the highest. You know, spring and summer, it's higher in the sky. Fall and winter, it's lower and it's closer to the horizon at the bottom. You know, so if like this is the sky and you're looking to the sky, it's going to be at the bottom of the sky. You know, and then in the spring and summer, it's going to be towards the top like this. You know, so that's definitely good to know. And then a couple other things you can look out for in the winter time. In the wintertime, you can look for two things. You can look for Orion's belt and you can look for Cassiopeia. And those will also help you if you have a hard time finding the Big Dipper for whatever reason. It shouldn't be hard to find. But you can also look for Orion's belt. Now, in the wintertime, Orion's belt, it forms what they call the North Arrow. And it looks basically like an arrow in the sky. You know, and it points directly towards the North Star. So basically it's going to look something like this. So you're going to see something like this in the sky. They call this the North Arrow, all right? And this is these three stars right here. This is your Orion's belt. That's what the Egyptian pyramids were built after these three. But together with these stars in the wintertime, it forms like an arrow, and they call that the North Arrow. It's easy to spot in the wintertime on a clear sky, typically in the fall time as well. Once, you know, in the fall you can see it, and it generally points towards the North Star, you know. So once you follow the North Arrow, you can find it's basically called the North Arrow because it points north. So if you're looking at it like this, then north is this way, you know, it points north. So that's an easy way to, you know, kind of find your direction. You can also use this to find your North Star, you know, because it'll give you a general, so, you know, like down here, this is going to be already towards the south, and this is going to be towards the north, so you can orient your body towards the north. And then if you want to get more precise, you can look for the Big Dipper and for the North Star. But, I mean, even if you line this up, it almost goes directly towards the North Star, you know. So what I recommend to you guys is to go outside at night on a clear sky and try to look for these things that I'm telling you about. And this way you can practice and get to know it, you know. So this is the North Star and Orion's belt. And then the last one is going to be Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia looks like a W in the sky. An upside down W. It's going to look something like this. That's what Cassiopeia looks like. You know, it may actually be a little bit different. Let me see. It's going to be more like this, you know, something like this. It's going to look like a W basically. That's Cassiopeia. And once you find Cassiopeia, it's going to look like an upside down W, you know, or W depending on the time of the year. You find the longest part of the W, the less steep part, because the first one side is steep and the other side is more like a like a gentler slope. You know, once you find that, you take the last star, and then you follow that towards. You can follow that towards the North Star, and generally Cassiopeia is going to be opposite of the Big Dipper. So if you see this, in the sky, like right now in the winter, you'll see something like this, and then down here will be your Big Dipper. They're always opposite from each other. All right, so Cassiopeia, Orion's Belt, North Arrow, and Big Dipper. And let's see what else. Now the moon, you can use the moon to navigate as well. Generally speaking, on most nights, the moon rises in the east and it sets in the west. So obviously the sun does the same thing as well. It rises in the east and sets in the west. You can also, if you're in the northern hemisphere, you can also look for Sirius. Sirius is like a very bright star in the pre-dawn hours. Typically in the springtime, you'll see Sirius. Sirius is like a very bright star, and it rises out of the southeast typically. It rises out of the southeast or the east. You know, it's like a very bright star. It's probably the brightest star in the sky, and that's typically in the pre-dawn hours, you know, after like 2 o'clock in the morning. So you can also look for Sirius. Another thing that you can do is you want to also, depending on the time of the year, you want to understand that the angle of the sun changes, you know. So like in the winter time, when the angle of the sun is lower, it's going to be more to the when it rises in the east, it's going to be more toward the southeast, you know. And then as it goes to like spring and fall, it's kind of more like perfectly east and west. And then as it goes into summer, it's going to be a little bit more to the north, you know, like northeast or northwest. Yeah, all right, guys. So sorry about that. It was a little interruption there. So basically, in the summertime, like if you're looking at the sun, you know, in the wintertime, the sun is at a lower angle, so it's going to be, you know, lower in the sky. So it's going to be a little bit more to the south, so you got to keep that in mind. You know, it's not directly east, it's a little bit to the south. And then as the season goes to the summer, it goes up more, you know, up higher in the sky, you know, and it's a little more directly east, you know. And then once it gets into the summer, it's going to be at the highest angle. It'll be a little bit more to the north. So you just want to keep that in mind, that, you know, if it's like in the winter time versus the summertime, there's going to be a difference. You know, the sun is generally going to be rising in the east, but because it's at a lower angle, it's going to appear to be coming from the south in the winter, and then in the summer it may be a little bit more to the north, you know. So you got to keep that in mind. You don't want to just, you know, follow directly where the sun is, because you're going to be a little bit off, you know. But it'll give you general direction. That's the most important thing, you know. You want to have a general direction. If you want to just quickly get your bearings, you know, for whatever reason, you know, you kind of want to just get your bearings quickly to see where's north, south, you know. That's where it's very useful. You know, so basically, you know, the North Star is great because it's true north. It's directly above the North Pole. It doesn't change based on the magnetic field like magnetic north. So it's definitely the most reliable way to tell your direction. Now, depending on what part of the world you're in, it's going to be different. You know, if you're in like the southern hemisphere, or if you're in the southern United States, you may have a hard time finding the Big Dipper, especially like closer to, you know, deep south. The Big Dipper may be a little bit harder, but you can still find the Little Dipper. You can still find, you know, the North Arrow and Orion's Belt, and you can still find Cassiopeia, you know. And you can also find Sirius as well. Sirius is another one. So that was just a quick video on using the heavens, the sky, you know, to help you navigate. I hope that you found this useful. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.